priority that the staff can help them.
So
I'll
just
reach out to Naveed and see what his plans are.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'd like to welcome you into the Communities and the Ocean session. I hope you guys have been enjoying. I hope you have been enjoying the previous sessions, and that you'll enjoy this one as well. Just a quick housekeeping reminders. We can keep the conversations going on the chat box on the right hand side, and we have the emojis. You can react if you like something um, that our speaker is going to be presenting on. So I have a great pleasure in introducing our speaker, who goes by the name of Stephen Matema. Stephen Matema will be sharing his presentation with us on connecting with communities. Stephen Matema is a social ecologist from the Center of Applied Social Studies at the University of Zimbabwe and the Animal Production and Plant Production System groups at the University of Wageningen, at the Wageningen University. Mr. Stephen, take it away, sir.
thank you, Andile. Good afternoon, everyone, or good morning, wherever we might be in different time zones. And I would like to thank the African youth for the invitation to speak on principles of community engagement and connecting with communities. But let me quickly point out that I'm not really comfortable with the word principle, because it kind of fixes things, brings some rigidity into community engagement, because the whole process is not as simple as you can see from that background. It's a stony, rocky, bumpy, tortuous process when you are engaging with community. So I won't be talking about principles per se, but I'll be sharing a bit of my practical knowledge and practical experience from a bit of from the work that I've done over the past 20 years. 10 minutes is not much, so I'll just pick out a few and share with you. So my slides was okay. Let me.
We can see the next one
somewhere. So,
and just to clarify,
yeah, but it should be the next one. Now I'm on the fourth slide when I should be on the right. Should be on the second. Let's hope it doesn't stick. Let's see if it comes. Oh, okay. There we are. So the first aspect that I want to share, not really a principle, but the first experience is on community entry. Was when we know when you are connecting with communities, there are protocols, there are procedures that you follow, and often in an African setting, we can have different local leadership. We have councillors, we have MECs, we have all kind of different local leadership. But one that I found a bit difficult to challenging, not difficult to deal with, are the customary leaders, or what we are sometimes called traditional leaders. And the complication comes where we have to deal with custom and drawing boundaries between customary tokens and corruption or elite capture. And I will share an experience where we're carrying out a project on conservation-based land use. So we get to the community, we are introduced to the traditional council, and after that the chief says, or the inkosi, because it was in South African context, says, I want a salute. So it wasn't like the military salute, but it was a token to acknowledge that he is the inkosi of the area. So because he knew we were coming from conservation, he said he needs an Impala. So we said, okay, we have heard your request. We will take it to the office and see as an organization what we can do. But then it delayed, organizational bureaucracy until we got to the point where we had to do a baseline survey for the same project. And we were working with different Amakosi or different chiefs, as they are referred to in other contexts. And so we're taking enumerators from those different Amakosi working on that project. So he said, no, you didn't tell me that there will be outsiders. So that's for me, you have to pay a fine for bringing other people into my jurisdiction. Although he knew, then we said, okay, you can put it in writing, so that we can take it to the office. He did put it in writing, but then it changed from a fine to a Christmas gift of a cow, or the equivalent of 7,000. So now it was a Christmas gift. We took it to the office and we said, okay, we have your custom of a salute. We also have customs and procedures at the office. So let procedures talk to procedures. Then we'll come back to you. Then when he realized that it was now becoming formal, when he wanted to be informal, then he said, no, it's not that I'm standing in the way of development. You can proceed while sorting all these other things. So you can just see some of the challenges that you meet when you're getting into communities where some local leaders may want to appropriate the project for personal gain. So how we get out of it is not like a prescription, but in that case, that's how we got out. Then somewhere in the program, and other speakers have said it before, we've spoken about blue economy, stewardship. But when you're dealing with communities, the issue is, when you're talking about stewardship, are we talking from the same platform? Because for people, usually for communities, it's natural resources. But we are talking about nature, because the moment you put natural resources, then there's a utility aspect to it, utilization aspect to it. Whereas nature, there's some kind of fortress mentality to it. To say, we're talking about Bram was talking about whether it should be 30, 700. Then you're talking about nature, preserving nature. But at the same time, the people are looking at it as natural resources. So there has to be, over time, there's been a development of payment for environmental services, and I know basically that kind of model, so that people, local communities, can take stewardship of those ones. But usually the way we design it, communities often see them as side payments. If you are talking about a side payment, we are talking about an incentive so that the communities can cooperate. But the issue is not about merely cooperation, but that stewardship aspect. But if we do not package it well, they will always take it as a side payment. If it is a side payment, then it is like a token. So they will never really take a full ownership of the program or that conservation initiative. So we have to strike a balance and see how we make sure that communities are not taking whatever efforts, your 30 by 30 or 50 by 50 or 100 as a side payment. But let's strive towards them really taking ownership and control, not taking that as a kind of side payment, because it is then bound to fail. And then you also need to build confidence when you get into communities. And I'll give an example. Because first impressions and community expectations are really, really important if we are to connect in the right way with community. So we were there. If you look at the bottom of the slide, there's a Nissan 1400, quite an old car, maybe 1990s or whatever. Then above there's a relatively new car. So when we go to the communities, the first question was, where's the Land Cruiser? You guys should be driving a Land Cruiser. You're talking about a biodiversity economy, and you're driving this car. How does that balance? So you see, the way we care ourselves, the way we get into communities, the tools that we use are a language themselves in the way we connect with communities or the way communities connect with us. So we have to be very careful and pay attention to the first impression that we make when we get into communities. Let's wait for the next slide and see. Then there is also the common perspective, which is a kind of a myth that if you are dealing with communities, then the local leadership outcome of the project. I know it's not every practitioner or conservationist or other academics who see it that way, but basically, from my experience, there has been that kind of thinking that if I get the permission or the agreement or the support of the INCOSI or chief, as they are called in other contexts, or the councillor or the member of parliament or the president, then that's it. But what we forget is whoever you are taking as a local leader rules by consensus. It might not be obvious, but there's that hidden accountability. So we really need to engage with the communities, go informal, talk to them, and just mix. Well, then you can find those big people. They might be taken as commoners, but in real practice, they carry weight in how we connect, on whether we connect successfully or we don't connect. So what is then needed is a kind of moving from that centralized, although it is a myth to say there is hegemony by the top leadership, because it is like it's shown on the right, that is hegemony on a shoestring. You think that is complete absolute power, but there are those checks and balances because it's a constituency for them, for political power, for economic power. So you can move away from that, because we know, like in a patriarchal society, there may be women who do not have a voice, youth who might not have a voice. So you can look at how to balance power and look at what Elena Ostrom and others have called polycentric institutions, whereby you disaggregate the community, women, youth, and different interest groups, then you engage them so that at least there's that balance of power. I think I skipped the 6. Sorry, let's go back. Then there's the connect fruitfully or in a more collaborative way with communities. Then you have to be aware of certain symbolisms, labels, and places at which or where you engage the communities. For example, if you look at that red car, that was a consultants project that I was leading in Zimbabwe. And so because of the political polarization in Zimbabwe, the opposition colors were red. And at that time, they were the political atmosphere was so intense, and the opposition was taken as a puppet of the West. So much against my advice, the people that I was consulting for gave us a red track. They told them, no, we are going to a resettlement place where people settle themselves. That was during the time where people were taking land. And then we have a red car. Then they said, what's wrong with the color? The first time we got there, they said, are you MDC? Straight like that. So you people, you are coming here like researchers, but you want to understand how we are living, then you can kick us out. So it's a simple color of a car, but it has to be read in the context of a wider political context. It might be religious, different polarizations that we find in communities. So we have to be sensitive to those ones. Then the other one was when I was invited to speak on how to effectively communicate HIV and AIDS. And so the venue was a luxury hotel, and it was a week long. So one participant came up from the community, came up and said, Stephen, I don't understand you people. When you come to the communities, you say you are constrained resource-wise and so on. Just give us half bars of laundry soap. But look at the rooms you are sleeping in, the food we are eating. How much did it cost just to hold a talk shop? So you see, the way we interact, the way that language that we portray bodily or in other interactions is so important. So we have to be sensitive into that context and to those engagements, how we do them. And there are labels. Like when I was doing a study, which was part of my master's on the bushmeat trade. So I got to the communities, got there, they were the tavern. Then I said, I introduced myself. I'm doing a study on bushmeat, and I want to talk to hunters. Then they said, hunters or poachers? I said, no, I want to talk to hunters. Then they say, what do you mean hunters? And I said, because before that protected area was there, people were hunting. I want to speak to those people. Then I said, yeah, you speak a different language. I think we can talk. And the rest, as they say, is history. Was I had loads of those people coming just because of the label of poacher and appreciating them as hunters. Yes, it's a debatable topic, but that kind of language that resonate with them led to a difference. So basically, it's about going informal. Then you also need to be an insider, but also as an outsider. I'll give an example. You need to be part of the community. They need to feel that you are part of them, that you empathize or you share certain values. And we are African youth. They are African values. That we are not merely conservationists or students doing research. We are Africans. So communities are looking at an African student, and they expect a certain level of Africanism or Ubuntu, maybe, if I can use that that term. So we went to a funeral. Had been up to that point, there was a bit of violence, a bit of resistance to the project. But when we got there with my workmate, they said, "You guys, never expected you here. We thought we were just chasing salaries. So you really are people, as in Ubuntu." Then they said, "Okay, tell us more about your project." And that's why the dialogue was broken at a funeral, because we immersed ourselves in that community. Of course, there will always be boundaries, but that immersion itself gave us a. And I'm not saying go and hold parties in those communities, but there are boundaries and there are limits to what can be done. And this is my last one for the sake of time. And so how can we better connect in terms of, was basically what you remember I said, nature and natural resources, and in terms of your blue economy, in terms of other nature-based solutions. So the thing is, we are not celebrating, like idolizing local communities and saying everything external is not good, but we are talking about a convergence. So the issue is to make sure that we create a hyper-local nature solution, so that people are not just seeing them as side payments. Whatever benefits they're deriving from your oceans, from whatever, they are not seeing them as side payments, but they are seeing it partly as a continuation of their lives. So find those connections, and then you can better connect with the communities. For the sake of time, yeah, I hope I've said something useful. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Stephen, for your great discussion. I really enjoyed it. A few things that stood out for me was, firstly, you need to educate yourself and understand the community you are working with. Also, have a balance between monetizing and taking ownership in conservation. And also, that will lead to a correct approach to the community that you're working with. In the interest of time, we're gonna only take one question from the audience. If there's any questions or comments, I'll be waiting for the hands. Just a reminder, you click the raise hand button, and then Bianca, will let you in on stage. I'm not seeing any hands, Bianca. If you have a question later on, maybe you can just pop it in the Q&A. You can keep also the conversations going. Yeah, I think that was it. Thank you so much, Stephen, again.
My pleasure. How do I get out?